94.3 The Ox, Hayden Haddock, and Better Than a Memory on your Monday ride. 8:27 now. Time for Coffee Talk, brought to you by the Comanche Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture. Check them out at #Explore Comanche in Texas. As we say good morning and welcome in as always on Monday. Cynthia Newton with Hope Counseling. How we doing?
Good morning. I am alive. It's Monday morning.
You made it.
I made it. Dang it.
It's getting harder, isn't it?
It is. Some days right now it's definitely getting harder. So I really could have stayed in bed a little longer this morning, but that's okay. I'm here.
It doesn't help when it's hotter than the surface of the sun out there.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. So if you haven't noticed, it's just been a little bit hotter than what we've been used to as far as a quote normal summer in Texas. Right. I mean, we started with 3-digit numbers back in May, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's very unnormal.
Back when it was just 100 degrees.
It was just 100 degrees back then. Now it's like 109, 108.
I used to say after 100 degrees it doesn't matter, but I'm starting to change my mind. I've come around now in this last couple of weeks that those last 4 or 5 degrees do matter.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Have you noticed any of the people around you, not you because we know that you're perfect, but any of the people around you, like their moods changing with all this heat?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely ratchets up the stress, it does. Don't want to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't want to be here.
Absolutely. And, there's so much emphasis when we have heat, and we have heat like we've had on the physical side of things. And There truly is. And I'm not discounting that at all because it's absolutely imperative that you take care of the physical well-being. And we're going to go over some of that in a minute. But the mental health is huge, and the effects, especially for people who already have mental health issues, that the heat actually can cause impacts and make things worse. So that's what I'm talking about today. Okay. So I'm sure y'all realize we may have talked a little bit about that before we got on the air because that was just too planned. Not really, but we've been working together well for a long time.
That's right.
Anyway. So as y'all have noticed, temperatures have reached triple digits all the way back in May. Okay. Earlier than in typical. This summer, which is expected to bring, which we are seeing, we are bringing historic levels of oppressive heat. It is expected to have an effect beyond typical heat worries, such as dehydration and heat stroke. Okay, so when we look at that, there's been some recent studies actually on this, but let me give you a little bit of background really quickly. Heat waves have a huge impact on our physical and mental health. Doctors usually dread them, as emergency rooms quickly fill up with patients suffering from dehydration, delirium, and fainting. Now, delirium is outside your normal, Kyle.
Oh, I live in delirium.
I know. So if you were acting normal, you might be in a state of
Right.
delirium.
They worry about me.
Yeah. Recent studies suggest at least a 10% rise in hospital emergency room visits on days when temperatures reach or exceed the top 5% of the normal temperature range for any given location. Now, we're in Texas, okay? Normal here in Texas is not the same as normal in
right.
Washington or Maine or, places like that, right?
Sure.
Right. So that's really important. I lost my place. Oh, okay. Soaring temperatures can make symptoms worse with those with mental health conditions. Heat waves, as well as other weather events such as floods and fires, have been linked to a rise in depressive symptoms in people with depression and a rise in anxiety symptoms in those with generalized anxiety disorder, a disorder where people feel anxious most of the time. There's also a link between daily high temperature and suicide attempts. And roughly speaking, for every 1 degree Celsius, I know you typically think in Fahrenheit, but studies are typically done in metric measures. For every 1 degree Celsius increase in monthly average temperature, mental health related deaths increase by 2.2%. That's a pretty big comparison when you think about it.
Sure.
Spikes in relative humidity also result in higher occurrence of suicide. All interesting information to me, but humidity and temperature have been causally linked to a rise in manic episodes in people with bipolar disorder. This state of illness causes significant harm and can result in hospitalization for psychosis and thoughts of suicide. Further problems are posed by the fact that effectiveness of important drugs used to treat psychiatric illness can be reduced by the effects of heat. We know that many drugs increase the risk of heat-related death. For example, antipsychotics, which can suppress thirst, resulting in people becoming dehydrated. Some drugs will work differently depending on the body temperature and how dehydrated the person is. Things such as lithium, a very potent and widely used mood stabilizer. Okay, so looking at the medications one's on, and this goes for all meds, not just psych meds, but especially when you're looking at how it can affect mental illness. But all of your meds, I mean, if you've got, talk to your pharmacist, be sure and look at how being in the sun and how body temperature may affect the way they work. You may start seeing changes in your body and your moods and in your physical as well, because your medications aren't working as effectively. So there have been two studies that I want to hit on today, but one very, very recent. I believe it was just done within the last year and published. The study found that days with the higher than normal temperature during the summer season in the United States were associated with increased rates of emergency department visits, as I stated earlier, for many mental health related conditions, particularly, again, substance use, anxiety and stress disorders, and mood disorders. The impact of heat on physical health is well documented, but there are very limited studies on the effect of mental health. Days of extreme heat, okay, that is defined as temperatures above 95 degrees. Right. Okay. So
that's extreme enough.
That is extreme. Days temperatures above 95 degrees. And then also where that these days of extreme heat were mostly linked with emergency department visits for childhood onset behavioral disorders and substance use disorders, followed by anxiety, stress related, and mood disorders. Extreme heat was also associated with emergency visits for schizophrenia. Researchers found that the impact of heat on mental health was similar across all age groups and evident in both men and women in every region of the country.
Bless you. I saw that one coming.
I get in here and you make me sneeze.
They always travel in pairs, too.
These results show that heat can profoundly impact the mental health of people regardless of age, sex, or where they live. The impact of heat wave was slightly higher. Okay, again, I talked to you about location. It was slightly higher in the Northeast, Midwest, and Northwest. Although those regions generally have lower temperatures than the Southeast or Southwestern, that is exactly why the population in these areas might suffer the most during temperatures of high temperature. So you think about, how did we suffer when we were having those extreme lows, because we weren't used to it.
Right. Same
thing there. I mean, it's literally the same concept when our northern friends have these excessively high, because they're not used to it. Their animals aren't used to it. I mean, their houses aren't made for it. I mean, it's just, absolutely go through what we went through, and that's what they're going when they're having these excessive heats.
And it's hard to believe, but a lot of people up there, Chicago, out that way over in New York, they don't have air conditioning.
No, they don't.
And so when it's not quite this hot there, but it's hot enough.
You were right.
They, like you said, they don't deal with it well.
No,
they don't. Just like us in the ice.
Absolutely, people. It's kind of sometimes hard to even fathom that, but it does. It's crazy. I mean, if we're suffering, trust me. If you were living up north, it would be so much worse. So one thing that's important to realize is, like I said, the effects here. I'll find my cheat sheet. On body temperature. Okay, so when your body temperature, obviously your body temperature when you're out in the heat is going to rise, right? Okay. So studies are showing that the same part of the body that's trying to regulate body temperature might also impact levels of dopamine and serotonin being released in the brain. So we know, because all of y'all know my radio shows and you've listened to me for so long, that we all know that dopamine and serotonin are two huge factors in mental illness.
Sure.
Okay? So when those are impacted, because our body temperature is impacted, there is an actual chemical issue related to the increase of mental health issues, because those are going to get, your levels are going to get, for a better terminology, out of whack. Yeah. I mean, they're not gonna be where they need to be. They're gonna be, and that's something that obviously affects a lot of things with your mood and response time and ability to think even. So we often think of seasonal affective disorder. We've heard of that, but usually we think about that as It happens in the winter in places
cabin
like
fever.
Seattle, or Alaska, or it's what they see the many rainy, dreary days, or New England, which experiences the days of snow leading to the cabin fever. Would you stop doing that? No, I'm just kidding. Reverse seasonal affective disorder is a real diagnosis that is felt by people in spring and summer, especially in warm weather areas. So people with reverse seasonal affective disorder can have symptoms such as decreased appetite and insomnia. Sometimes they have depression, but other times they may experience mania. Mania is marked by great overactivity, excitement, euphoria, or delusions. People with SAD or seasonal affective disorder in the winter, on the other hand, have depression, not usually mania, and an increased appetite. So that's the difference when you look at that in relationship to what's going on around you. So when you think about what can be happening, heat can affect that mental health and the ability to think and reason. I said that a minute ago. This is really huge when you start thinking about fuzzy thinking and aggressive behavior. Okay? We all know irritability, especially with us women. I mean, we can be irritable all the time.
No.
Not that you would say that on the air. You'd probably get in trouble. Anyway.
She's probably not listening right
Okay,
now.
good.
It happens occasionally.
But so we know that it can affect the ability to think and reason of people without a mental health disorder. However, research shows that areas of the brain responsible for framing and solving complex cognitive tasks are impaired by heat stress. When people are not thinking clearly due to the heat, it's more likely they will become frustrated, and this in turn can lead to aggression.
Sure.
It's just kind of amazing how everything kind of links, isn't it?
Dominoes up together.
Absolutely. So there's strong evidence linking extreme heat with a rise in violent crime.
Yep.
Even just a 1 or 2 degrees Celsius increase in ambient temperatures can lead to a 3 to 5% spike in assaults. Because you're more irritable, you're easily angered, all these things are happening. The reason for the increase involves a complex interaction of psychological, as I stated a moment ago, social and biological factors. So you've got serotonin again, which does help keep the levels of aggression in check, and that is affected by high temperatures.
Sure.
So
any cop will tell you in the winter things slow down.
Yep.
So it makes sense that in the summer.
In the winter, they get more donut breaks. In the summer, they don't get any naps. So even the cops become more irritable.
True. They're not happy
but
to be
we
out
greatly
there either.
appreciate them, right?
That's right. Unless they're giving us a ticket.
Anyway.
Then not so much.
So, here I am telling you, okay, you're doomed, right? No, I'm not telling you you're doomed, but I'm telling you that if you have a mental illness, be aware that, this heat is affecting you. It's not affecting you just because it's hot. It's affecting you because it's messing up your brain, basically. Right. Even if you don't have already, be aware of that. And especially your kiddos, okay? Because kiddos, they want to play. They're like so not aware of the heat until all of a sudden they start getting sick and they get a headache, and you're like, well, what's wrong? Well, I've been out in the sun all day in the hot,
Overcooked it.
Forgot to drink water because I'm not used to drinking as much as I need to drink. And these are things that happen with kids, right? So here's some things that can help you if you are feeling mentally affected by this heat. Get outside when you can, okay? That may mean early in the morning and later in the evening right now. Of course, 9 o'clock last night, it was still very hot, but even still, avoid the middle part of the day. Avoid getting out in the heat of the day. Like I said, dehydration, heat exhaustion, heat stroke can all have mental health regulation issues. Use hydration, common sense to protect yourself from the heat. Stay active even if you have to be inside. This is a huge thing in affecting your mental illness. Maybe you exercise at the gym. Maybe you walk around on air-conditioned space like a large store, mall, or your house. Hours of inactivity can lead to that trapped feeling, restlessness, or depression. Give yourself something to do. Plan regular indoor activities such as exercise, volunteering, or a project you want to do. Crafts are a great thing, especially if you're stuck at home with the kids. Just finding some things, and it doesn't have to be, I am not a crafty person, I'm going to tell you that right now, but my kids have a craft cabinet that they'll go to, and just the things that they come up with that, with who knows what I found, rolls of toilet paper, just whatever, and it just gives them something extra to do. Mm-hmm. Get enough sleep. It may still be light outside at 9 p.m. and the sun might rise at 6 a.m. But if you need to be asleep at 9 p.m. or still be asleep at 6 a.m., try to stick to your normal sleep routine. Invest in shades, blinds, or blackout curtains if you are light sensitive. Create that daily routine. Summer for families can mean a free-for-all with a schedule. Try to mimic the school year with regular wake-up times, regular bedtimes, regular meal times, and regular activities, both physical and mental. Without structure, kids can get anxious and they can get less sleep than they need. Creating consistency for kids who are at it, like possibly they've been at different camps each week. Try to make the rest of their day the same: breakfast, dinner time, bedtime.
Right.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go back to school, so it's really important to start, if you haven't, to really start transitioning now into those back to school routines. Yeah. Absolutely. Continue to eat healthy, regular meals. No one wants to cook in the heat of the summer, I promise you that, but that doesn't mean constant snacking or takeout. Boost the vegetables, fruits, lean proteins for good brain power foods. So, I mean, you know, you've got farmers markets, everything open all around. Go pick up some amazing fruits and vegetables, and you don't have to take a lot, you know. It doesn't have to take a lot. You don't have to sit in that hot kitchen for hours. Trust me, it gets hot. But, you know, for those who don't have air conditioning, it gets even hotter. No. Anyway, it doesn't take much to throw a salad together or throw something that, you know, it is still healthy, but you're still eating. Maintain a connection, especially for your kids. They may feel more isolated right now without the school. Scheduling play dates or phone a friend often. Take mental health breaks. If you're feeling overwhelmed, think about doing something for yourself. Yoga or meditation. As always, if you're feeling yourself getting out of control, getting into a different place that's not a good place, please, you know, always try to look for some help, for therapy, anything to get you back. Sometimes it doesn't take much. It just takes a checkpoint, you know, as I like to call.
A nudge in the right direction.
Yeah, a little bit of a nudge, you know, from a professional to help you say, hey, this is what's going on. Let's do this. And as always, here at Hope Counseling of Texas, we're here for you. So we have offices in Comanche, Hamilton, Dublin, and Eastland. Anything that we can do for you, we're happy to help you. 325-356-0075 or 325-356-1105. Again, Hope Counseling of Texas, Comanche, Hamilton, Eastland, and Dublin offices.
Helping you beat the heat.
Absolutely.
Be careful out there in the heat. Thanks as always, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Designed to protect what's important to you. Doesn't have to be confusing to ensure